fierce, intense, excited, pumped up. What an amazing, beautiful day. Vamos a empezar en inglés, después en español. If you are interested in hearing about the announcement today about the DREAM Act, if you're interested in reviewing the requirements for the DREAM Act as it's proposed, tune in. That's what we'll be talking about in a few minutes here. Before we get started, as always, you can give us a share, throw down a like, a comment with a question if you have it. Always appreciate that, but want everybody to know what happened today. It's very important to be informed. No, there's nothing we can apply for today. No, there's no new application. No, nothing got passed today. All right, but we're going to go over that. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Facebook, make sure you share. Greatly appreciated. So here we go. So today, Senator Durbin, again, and I'm emphasizing again because as he said in his speech, this is his 128th time in 20 years speaking about the DREAM Act. He first introduced it 20 years ago. He had a marvelous speech, which I encourage you to go on there and give it a listen. Here he is. It's not that long, right? It's just like 15, 14 minutes or something. And it got me teared up, it got me emotional. He told the story, as he does all the time, of young dreamers and why it's so important to get it passed. Now, it's not a for sure thing. I want to start by saying that. It is not guaranteed that it will pass as is. So let's talk a little bit more about that here. What we have is a bipartisan, which is huge because we know we won Georgia, got control of the Senate, control of the House, Biden is president. So what we need is to get over the filibuster from the Republicans, and this is co-sponsored by a Republican. Now, what it says is this year's version is identical to versions that they've gone over in the past. So that's the one we'll be talking about today, the one that was last introduced. We have the text to that. But we have Senator Graham here saying he doesn't want it as a standalone bill, but as part of a comprehensive immigration package. We can construe that as a good thing, right? That he doesn't want just the dreamers to be able to adjust status, but more people than that. But some people are interpreting this language here as saying he's going to try to stall his own bill if he doesn't have the negative enforcement stuff for Border Patrol, militarization of the border. Who knows? Maybe we're reading too much into it, but he's the co-sponsor of the bill saying, I don't want it to be a standalone. I want it to be more comprehensive. Nonetheless, this is getting the ball rolling. This is getting people, including myself, very, very excited. Right? So nothing passed, nothing to fill out, but I will go over tonight what the requirements are based on the last one, which as you just saw in that article, they say the language is identical. It's been 20 years, it's been introduced, so we got an idea of who qualifies and who doesn't qualify. Gracias, Jose Alfredo, for watching. Always appreciate that. So let's get started on who exactly qualifies. As we'd love to do here, we're going to take you straight to the source. So here we have what was Senate Bill 874, introduced March 26 of 2019. It is called the DREAM Act of 2019. That might be the only change. Who knows? Maybe it'll say the DREAM Act of 2021 instead. But this is what we're going to go over right now, what the text has from the 2019 version, which as we saw was going to be the same. Starts off by going over definitions that are used within here. Pretty much the standard stuff that you see, nothing exciting here. But then we get to the real exciting part that is referenced over and over again, starting here on page 4, down towards the bottom. Who can get conditional permanent resident status? There's one real easy one, if you have DACA. Right? If you have DACA, this passes, you're going to become a conditional permanent resident. We'll talk more in a minute how to become a legal permanent resident. But say you don't have DACA, all right? If you don't have DACA, you could still greatly benefit from this and become a conditional legal permanent resident if you meet the following requirements. So here we have been 4 years continuously physically present in the United States prior to the enactment of the act. So say it gets passed sometime later in the year, subtract 4 years, you've been here continuously, haven't left. It goes over brief absences. There's even an exception for that. It's very well written in terms of that, even better than DACA. So been here for 4 years, requirement number 1. You were here before you were 18. So your initial entry was 17, 16, 15 on down. That's the second qualification. And then we get down to the legal mumbo jumbo. What does this mean, Mr. Attorney? You're not admissible under paragraph 236E, 6G, 8, all those letters of the Immigration Nationality Act. Now that might just intimidate you right there, but I can tell you because I looked them up before. So these are the grounds of inadmissibility for criminal grounds, terrorism, smuggling, student visa abuse, polygamy, child abduction, ineligible for citizenship, and unlawful voting. So those, it's actually not as bad because it's not all the grounds of inadmissibility. It's only certain grounds of inadmissibility which are covered right here, and there's even a waiver for some of these. So very good to see. You've also not assisted in participation, persecution based on someone's race, and you go back to the more traditional DACA language. In addition to the regular criminal bars of inadmissibility, you have no felony offenses in state or federal court other than immigration related, and you do not have 3 or more misdemeanors. Here's where it's better than DACA. You do not have 3 or more misdemeanors, watch this, and you were imprisoned for 90 days or more. Yes, so there's people that have a lot of misdemeanors because some states make driving without a license a misdemeanor, criminal offense. If you have 3 of those on separate dates, you probably didn't get any jail time, so you still wouldn't be excluded from the program as long as you didn't serve 90 days in prison. And again, this is where the immigration language is very important. It says imprisoned for 90 days. It doesn't say sentenced to. Sometimes you'll get misdemeanor plea agreements that say sentenced to 180 days, but only have to do 1 day, or don't have to do any days if you pay the fine, something like that. Well, that wouldn't count, as it sometimes does in immigration law, as sentenced to a certain amount of time. It's the aggregate, so the total amount of time that you did in jail, all right? So we have that, no felony, no misdemeanor, 3 or more of 90 days, and then we get down to the education part. So you have to have all that stuff and also been admitted to an institution of higher education, that's just one of them, don't worry, it's not a requirement, or earned a high school diploma or the equivalent, a GED, or you're enrolled in a secondary school in the process of attaining your GED or high school diploma, all right? So that's the requirements to qualify if, again, this passes. I'm going to keep saying it because sometimes people jump on and say, oh, can I apply now? Nothing to apply for. We're just reviewing the announcement today and the legislation as it was introduced in 2019, which they said it's going to be the same one this year, sponsored by Durbin and Graham, the same people that dropped it in 2019. So we're going over that right now. Some of the exciting things that I like in here, right? There's a waiver. If you still have the criminal or smuggle, student visa, unlawful voting, there's actually a waiver in here for that, for purposes of family unity, or if the waiver is otherwise in the public interest. So Guadalupe Diaz, nothing to completely stress about, right? We're going over the DREAM Act bill introduced by Durbin and Graham today. Hasn't passed. This is the bill that was introduced, so I want everybody to know about it, for the purpose of advocacy, to begin pushing your senators, your representatives, your president to get this done and get it done ASAP. And we're going over tonight who qualifies under this piece of legislation. More exciting stuff, talks about expunged convictions. So if you have a certain type of felony offense or these misdemeanors that might disqualify you, they're even throwing this in here, which normally in the immigration world has to be an expungement based on a constitutional violation. So me, the crim-im guy, gets very excited on reading these changes that could help a lot of people, but doesn't really get to the front of the news, right? So that was for if you don't have DACA. All that language just went through if you don't have DACA. And then it gets to the DACA, right? The secretary shall cancel the removal of and adjust to alien person lawfully admitted for permanent residence on a conditional basis who was granted DACA and has not engaged, unless they've engaged, in conduct that would take the DACA away. Okay? Yes, GED does count. Sorry about that, my face is in the way there, but GED would count as the high school diploma to qualify, or enrolled in a program going towards your GED, most definitely. Just like the DACA program. Then it goes over, application fee. There's some pretty good exceptions in here for someone that's in foster care, someone that can't pay, so that's good stuff that we're seeing over here. We do also have a requirement for the medical examination, which goes over here on the bottom of page 10, so everybody's still got to go through the medical examination. Go for it. You got questions, drop them down below. That's what we're here for. Si está esperando español, si vamos a hacerlo después que yo termine en inglés, sigue esperando por favor, pero puede poner sus comentarios. You're going to have to enroll in the selective service, and it defines continuous presence a little bit better. There's some exceptions here that we didn't see in the DACA era, talking about if it was for a serious illness in the family or yourself, that could be a reason to get around that as well. So that was pretty awesome to see. I was very excited about that. And let's go over another cool thing for the youngins. Well, if you're like, my little brother or sister is still in elementary school. They're still in junior high, middle school here in the States. Well, if they're at least 5 years old and enrolled in an elementary or secondary school, there's a stay of removal and a promise to not get in proceedings. And you can even apply for a work permit when you're old enough to work. Check that out over there. Pepe, Patricia, I see those questions get to you in just a minute. Just want to get over real quick who qualifies here for that stay. Young people, as long as you abide by the laws, you'll be able to keep that work permit and that status and that promise to not be deported. All right? So that's the overview right now of how to get the conditional status. So let me go back over here and see what questions we got. Ladies and gents, let's get some of these up here. We will go over some of the other stuff. What if we qualify for everything except the school, the GED stuff? Very, very simple. We got to change that. So you got to go to, I don't have any affiliation with them, but Rio Salado Community College, and enroll in a course to get your GED. Being enrolled in the course will be sufficient enough for you to get into the conditional LPR status. Obviously, best if you can just pound it out and get that GED done with the course or without the course, and then that requirement will be met. So always, always look for a way to get through, to get it done. I believe in you. You can do it. Rio Salado is a place that a lot of people here in Arizona have been using most recently. All right. No exceptions for that education part. That's it. You got to get in there. You got to get enrolled to qualify for the conditional permanent resident status. Doesn't require termination, but enrolled. All right. Claro que sí, mi placer, Marta. In order to qualify, you have to enroll to selective service if you have to, right? Selective service is generally for males 18 to 26 who are here during that time period. So there will be a requirement, but it's not, I mean, it's in there. But there's also letters that we can write, didn't know you had to apply, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing too much to worry about, but if you can apply, go for it. And yeah, any age, even handsome guys that are 42 years old like myself, great age to be, can enroll in GED courses. Go for it, get it done, make it happen. And here we go, Enrique. He's got a question. I don't make a lot of money. Can I still get my citizenship? We're going to go into that one, Enrique. We're going to go into the part about how to get rid of the conditional. So first, you're going to have to get rid of the conditional LPR status, which you can have for up to 8 years. Again, folks, it's the bill, it's the proposal, it's not passed. But if you have that conditional status, then you can terminate it and become a permanent resident. Then you can apply for citizenship. And yes, it does not matter. There's no income requirement to become a United States citizen. Nothing at all have to do with that, but I'll explain all the logistics to that in just a minute, all right? And besides that, Enrique, let's play that lottery, man. I've been playing it, hoping we hit those numbers. Hasn't happened yet, but never too late to get that great victory. And what if the person arrives here at 18, asked Edna. Unfortunately, Edna, not going to work for this legislation. You have to be age 17, under the age of 18, 17 and below, and your initial entry to qualify under this program, which is why a lot of people are going to be left out of the 11 to 15 million, whatever it is. This could cover supposedly 1.2, 1.5 million people. So it's leaving out a whole lot of people who didn't arrive before they were age 18. All right. So let's see over here. Now we're going to go back. Keep the questions coming, ladies and gents, but I want to get to the part about how you can continue on the path to citizenship, right? So we've already went over the requirements. You got your conditional LPR status because you had DACA or because you came before you were 18 and you haven't committed certain crimes and you've been enrolled in your GED program, so we're good to go there. Now you're like, all right, attorney, I got my conditional LPR status. How do I remove that? How do I remove my I just don't like the word conditional. What does the word conditional mean? It means you're not a permanent resident completely yet because they want to make you do more stuff, all right? So what's that more stuff that they want to make you do besides give them money? Besides giving the government money, if this passes as written, which again, it could be completely rewritten. Just because it's introduced in this way doesn't mean it's going to be not amended or changed at all, but this is what we have right now, hence this is what we're going over tonight. So we have right here, you have not abandoned your residence in the United States. So someone, for example, who has DACA right now, already acquired a degree from Arizona State University, from Stanford, or whatever your preferred universities are, they, once they have their conditional status, can already apply to get that removed and become a full-fledged legal permanent resident. Or if you've completed at least 2 years in good standings towards a bachelor or higher degree in the United States, that's one way to remove the conditional tag, which starts running the clock to become a U.S. citizen. That's why you want to get rid of that, right? Or you can serve at least 2 years in the uniformed services, or if education, military, not for you, you can be employed for 3 years, at least 75%. I hate math. I hate when they throw math and immigration stuff. Like, come on. There's a reason I went to law school, right? TI-81 used to have one. Don't know how to use it anymore. But 75% of the time had to have valid employment authorization. So we're going to have to bust out the calculators on those. So there is a hardship exception for this one. I know you're asking about the education hardship exemption. There is in this to get to be a full-fledged permanent resident after the conditional, and some of those would be like you're a full-time caretaker of a minor child, or you have a disability which prevents you from keeping on and getting it done. So there is from working or studying. So that is a possibility in that category, all right? Now, there's also another interesting part, which I'd never seen before in order to become a permanent resident, is that you have to essentially pass the part of the citizenship exam having to do with language and civics. I thought that was interesting. They're kind of jumping the gun on that, but whatever. You're going to want to get to that anyway when you get your citizenship, so you got to pound it out now to get rid of that conditional permanent resident status, right? So that's what we're going over right now. Looks like we got questions still keep coming in. Keep them coming, folks. We are reviewing the DREAM Act introduced in 2019, which we were told today by Senator Durbin will be introduced by him and Senator Graham, and the text will be basically identical. So this is the DREAM Act legislation that we're going over tonight, all right? A lot of this other stuff here we're coming up is going to be application fee stuff, so we're just going to zoom on by it, pay no attention. It's just talking about money, money, money. You're going to want to have money because the exceptions to not having it aren't really that huge, very specific. And we're going to get down to question that you got to do a background check, right? That's going to be an obvious one for everybody. Make sure that everybody's aware of that. We can't just put an answer down there hoping they don't find out about something. No, it's got to be legit, all right? Now, keep coming with the questions. I'll get to them. Just trying to get through this because this is a question that we get all the time. Matter of fact, I'll probably just do a separate video on this because we're going to get it so much. What kind of documents do I need? And even better than DACA, they're giving us examples here. They've learned from the DACA experience. So we go over the stuff. What do we need? Abogado, what can I start getting together right now? Right? Well, a passport to prove your identity, birth certificate, and another document with your photo and name, a school ID card along with school records, your military documentation, any work permit, anything immigration's given you, a state-issued ID. So those are things right now. And do you have to get it? No. Because there's no requirement now. There's no form to fill out. There's no documents to have to get together. We're just reviewing it because people just want to be prepared if it does get passed this year, which we hope it does, but there's no guarantee it does. So these are some documents. If you're a go-getter, if you sat in the front of class, you know, you're one of those gun-ho folks, which I was. I'm not going to lie about that. You know, this is for you to start gathering that documentation right now. Documents that establish that you had the continuous presence in here, employment records, records from school, military records, religious records, passport entry, birth certificate of kids, automobile license, deed, mortgage, rental agreements, tax receipts, insurance policies, remittance records, proof that you sent money back home, rent receipts, utility bills, and name and address, money orders, bank transactions, two or more, this is a cool one, two or more sworn affidavits from people who are not related to you that can specifically talk about you here. That's the 4 years continuous presence, right? Then we get down to documents proving you're here before you were 18. Again, stamping your passport, that'd be golden, that's perfect. Records from school, if you entered without a passport, what we call EWI, enter without inspection, school records from when you were a kid, anything from the government, medical records, rent receipts, employment records, official records like baptism certificates, birth certificates from kids, automobile license, tax receipts, travel records, money orders, going over the same stuff again, all right? Same stuff that gets a little bit more repetitive there about how to prove into a high school and all that good stuff, but that is essentially, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, what you got to be concerned about with the legislation that was introduced today. Let me get this screen back and I'll go back over to everybody here and see your questions. Keep the questions coming on down. Let's see what we got here. We did that one already. The what is that for? So this is the DREAM Act introduced in 2019 that Senator Durbin went on the Senate floor today, said him and Senator Graham are reintroducing again, going to have it in his committee. Senator Graham saying he wants to add more stuff onto it. This is the starting point, and he wants to add bad stuff, I presume. More enforcement, more militarization, and other people want to add good stuff to add more people into it. So it's just the start. It's the start of the debate that hopefully we will have for the next coming months and get something done this year, knock on wood. Nothing is guaranteed though, right? So let's see here. So I have DACA. If I get citizenship, can I help my sister, but not getting DACA? Can she get citizenship? Also my mom, she doesn't have papers. So the good thing about this one, there have been other renditions in the past, specifically the Trump one, where someone that adjusted from DACA to resident to citizen couldn't sponsor their parents. This one is not in there. Again, we have to closely follow the development of this legislation because somebody could try to add that in there and make this harmful. But yes, if you become a U.S. citizen, you can then try to petition your parents, your sister, your immediate relatives. Now the wait for sisters and brothers, if you're from Mexico right now, is 20 years or more. It's ridiculous. And as well to that, if you want to sponsor your parents, they have to have had a legal entry, came in with a visa. They'd have a petition before 2001, be 245I. They had to have someone in the military, like a child, in order to actually get it done. Or be married to a permanent resident or citizen, or have a parent that's a permanent resident or citizen. So long answer, maybe, right, is the short answer. It all depends on the circumstances of your siblings and your mom. All right, someone's confused. So they're requiring a bachelor's degree as priority. Not necessarily. They're giving priority if you have a bachelor's degree. So if you already have DACA and you already have a bachelor's degree, you can get to citizenship faster than anybody else, basically. You'll become a conditional permanent resident. It almost looks like automatically because you have DACA. You can apply to get that removed by showing proof you have a bachelor's degree. You can get on the path to then applying for citizenship to get that naturalization done. So you have preference, but you also have preference if you have just 2 years of the university higher education, working for 3 years. Those are also ways you can get to the conditional status removed. Right? Collecting your documents. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt, like, getting your stuff together. No penalty for that. And let's see what we say here. Yeah, si vamos a hacer español en unos minutitos. Acaba de ser terminado aquí en inglés. Si quiere aplicar para DACA, pero mi pasaporte se venció, necesita ser vigente. No es necesario que tiene su pasaporte vigente. Hay otras maneras de probar su identidad. El acta de nacimiento traducido a inglés es una manera también que podemos hacerlo. So it's good. Es bueno tener el pasaporte vigente, but not completely necessary. What's the DREAM Act? So the DREAM Act is a bill that's been introduced by Senator Durbin for 20 years. He's introduced it. And it gives a path to permanent residency for anybody that has DACA, anybody who came here more than 4 years ago from when this legislation gets passed, anyone who was 17 or less when they got here. They're not inadmissible for certain criminal and related grounds, no felony conviction, no misdemeanor that had 3 of them for more than 90 days, and you're in high school, enrolled in a GED, enrolled in an institution of higher education. You can be a conditional permanent resident and then get on the path to permanent resident. Hasn't passed yet. Nothing to fill out. I know I keep saying that. I'm sorry. People keep jumping on, so I don't want them to get the impression, I can send something out today. Nothing we can send out today. The purpose of doing this video is not for you to get your documents ready. If you want to, great. Not to get you to simply say, I'm going to sit back and wait for this to pass. My purpose today is to motivate you, to push you, to say, look at what the starting ground is. How do we get this passed? How do we get more people included? And how do we get active? How do you contact your representatives and your senators and your president and tell everybody, tell your story, inspire and motivate with your words, with your life story, with your poetry, with your art, with whatever it is, so that this becomes a reality. We cannot simply sit back and hope that it passes. We can't simply sit back and say, Biden promised, now he's got to do it. It is our job as the people to push those who are elected to do our work, do our obligation of engaging in the democratic process, not just voting and forgetting about it, but pushing these elected officials to make this a reality. That's the purpose of today. You, your friends, your family want to benefit from this? Get to work. Get to work. Let's make it happen. Is it fair? No, it's not fair that we have to do additional work to be accepted in the society that we know as our own home. It's not fair. But not everything in life is fair. So let's not sit back and cry about what's not fair. Let's get to work and get it done, get it passed, and get more good stuff in here. This is just a starting point. All right? Would the current proposal be conditional and then PR and then citizenship? Yeah, so it first goes conditional permanent resident, then it goes full-on legal permanent resident, then it goes citizenship. Conditional permanent resident is traditionally when you've been married for less than 2 years and you have 2 years of conditional status, then you have to take that away. It's kind of a new category of conditional where they want you to finish your degree, have 2 years in school, be working for 3 years, be enrolled in the military, or be a stay-at-home parent in order to move on to the next step of permanent residency, pass the English and the civics, and then eventually be able to go on to your citizenship. So that is, in a nutshell, the bill. Keep throwing the questions down. I'm going to switch over to Espanol. I have trouble studying for the test. What do I do? I have an IEP. I am bad on test. Totally understand, Enrique. You know, one of the people me and my wife are very inspired by right now is my name is David Goggins. encourage you to look him up on YouTube. Just been obsessing over his videos recently. So if you have problems learning and with testing, to get the conditional status, all you have to do is be enrolled in the GED class, right? To get that removed, once you have that, it doesn't actually have to be that you complete that. You can do the work one, where you work for the 3 years, then move on, and then the civics test, and then the English, you clearly already have that down, the English part, studying for the exam, for the questions. You just got to, if it takes you longer than a week, if it takes you a month, if it takes you 6 months, a year, you just got to put the work in to make sure that that gets done, right? But look up my man David Goggins, por favor. And then, would someone with a master's degree already skip the conditional part? Yeah, you need the bachelor's. If you have a bachelor's, you can essentially apply to get that taken away, all right? Y mis amigos de YouTube ya están, se pueden cerrar los casos administrativos con el nuevo memorando de DHS. Todavía, yo pienso que no, pero si había algo hoy que anunciaron, por favor me manda para que yo lo pueda revisar. Lo que yo he leído todavía, lo están estudiando casi todo, but hopefully there's a new memorandum. If there is, mándenme por favor y puedo hacer otro video sobre eso. So ya vamos a cambiar a la idioma de español. If you still have questions in English, throw them on down. Pero comunidad, gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Algo increíble hoy. Otra vez el Senator Durbin dijo por el 128 vez, habló sobre el DREAM Act, pero esta vez tenemos más esperanza que lo van a pasar. Lo que vamos a revisar hoy son los requisitos que está en la propuesta. Es propuesta, no paga ni un centavo a nadie para llenar documentos, porque no hay documentos a llenar, a juntar documentos, nadie a nadie, ni un centavo. El motivo de hoy es empujar gente a ser involucrado, a saber qué está pasando, a saber el primer anuncio, quién califica, quién no califica, para que podamos empujar y trabajar en siendo esto realidad. ¿Ok? So, sigue con las preguntas, sí le voy a revisar las preguntas. Primero voy a revisar quién califica y quién no califica bajo este nuevo anuncio, que no es nuevo realmente, ¿verdad? Dijo el Durbin, es un video muy excelente que si tienen chance debe leer o ver o escuchar, pero dijo que iba a ser casi el mismo que pusieron el mes pasado, que sí estamos revisando lo del 26 de marzo de 2019, y aquí es DREAM Act of 2019, probablemente va a cambiar a DREAM Act de 2021. ¿Okay? Primero empieza con los definitions, las diferentes palabras, algo muy normal, pero lo que nosotros queremos enfocar es quién puede beneficiar y qué significa. Y aquí empieza en página 4, ¿verdad? Una persona, dice aquí, si tiene más de 4 años viviendo en el país, después o antes que pasa esta propuesta, que tuviste propuesta, es el primer requisito, que tiene 4 años aquí. Segundo, es que entró al país cuando tenía menos de 18 años. Aquí dice menos de 18 años, so 17 o menos cuando entró, y ahorita o cuando pasa la ley, ojalá pasa, tiene 4 años viviendo aquí en el país. No es inadmisible por ciertas razones. Esas leyes aquí son las razones de inadmisibilidad sobre penal, terrorismo, votando sin permiso, polygamy, tienen más de una esposa o esposa. Esas son razones si una persona votó que no tenía permiso para que podía ser negado de eso. También una persona que tiene una felonía o tiene 3 delitos menores y hizo más de 90 días en la cárcel. Eso es algo muy importante y algo diferente y mejor que DACA. Una persona que tiene 3 convicciones de delitos menores lo puede negar la DACA, pero una persona aquí puede tener 3 convicciones, pero si no hizo 90 días en la cárcel, todavía va a estar bien. ¿Okay? Son menos de 18 cuando entró, 4 años aquí en el país, récord criminal no completamente limpia, pero sí tiene que ser no algo muy grave. Y después estar en una educación, una escuela, universidad, un colegio, o has ganado una degree de la prepa, que graduó de la prepa, o que está estudiando en la prepa, o en un programa para terminar su GED, o ya terminó su GED. Esos son los requisitos básicos para ganar lo que se llama condicional residencia en los Estados Unidos. El otro grupo que lo puedo ganar eso, sin hacer todo eso, son personas que tienen DACA. Si tiene DACA, esa propuesta dice, va a ser, si usted no ha sido nada para quitar la DACA, después de hacer su background check con sus huellas y todo eso, va a ser residente permanente condicional. Para quitar el condicional, puede ser que usted graduó de la universidad, estudió 2 años en la universidad, está en las Fuerzas Armadas por 3 años, o está trabajando por 3 años con la mayoría de ese tiempo con documentos buenos de trabajar. Hay excepciones, si usted es ama de casa, papá de casa, si usted no puede trabajar, no puede estudiar, sí hay excepciones de eso. Y después de eso, tiene que pasar su examen de inglés, tiene que pasar su examen de la historia y cívicos de Estados Unidos, y va a ser residente permanente caminando a ciudadanía. Y eso es algo muy, muy bueno, pero otra vez no es nada que es la ley ahorita. ¿Okay? Ya regresamos a las preguntas. Si yo tengo un associate's degree, sí, un associate's degree yo creo que es igual que los 2 años que ellos dicen por quitar la condicional y ir a permanente residente. Creo que eso sí califica. Mi placer, Vladimir, gracias porque nos está viendo. Tengo maestría, trabajo en la universidad, si pasa y me entiende, puedo aplicar. Sí, yo creo que usted va a tener chance de aplicar por quitar la condicional bien rápido y va a estar en camino a la ciudadanía. See here. Los que tenemos DACA podemos aplicar para la residencia. Sí, todos los que tienen DACA, si pasa eso, ¿verdad? Si pasa eso como está escrito, los que tienen DACA van a ser residentes permanentes condicionales. Pueden aplicar para quitar eso, para ser residente permanente, después aplicar por sus hijos, o por su ciudadanía, perdón. Estoy leyendo. Tengo un hijo de 21 años de ciudadano americano, ¿qué voy a necesitar y cuánto dinero? Una persona que quiera arreglar por medio de hijo, tiene que tener una entrada legal, una petición antes de 2001, o salió bajo advance parole, o tiene un hijo en el ejército para arreglar por medio de hijo. O tiene un esposo, mamá, papá que es residente ciudadano que puede pedir el perdón. Es una cosa más triste en mi carrera como abogado que tengo que explicar a papás. No, si usted entró sin visa y no tiene otras opciones, no es posible ser residente permanente por medio de sus hijos. Pero ojalá pasa, o si usted sí aplica eso a usted, sí puede ser su residencia. ¿Okay? El costo de aplicación es $535 para probar que es su hijo, luego $1,140, creo que puede ser un poco más de eso sobre la residencia. Eso es para las aplicaciones para el gobierno. ¿Okay? Si tengo TPS, puedo aplicar. There's another bill that was introduced that also talked about TPS. A lot of people are thinking TPS will get added to this. And yes, if you meet all the other qualifications, you can still apply through this. But some people are thinking they're going to do the DACA. If you have DACA or if you have TPS, you can be conditional. How it's written in this one that was introduced or brought to the Senate floor today, you would still be able to apply for it. This doesn't give the automatic like it does for someone that has DACA. Okay. Eso es, Karina Ruiz. Sigue Karina Ruiz. Si usted no está siguiendo a ella, síguele porque de seguro ella va a estar ahí enfrente empujando a los senadores, los congresistas para pasar eso y para pasar más. Muy, muy importante que seguimos peleando y seguimos en la lucha. ¿Okay? No es la ley. Tiene que trabajar para que eso pueda ser la ley al fin de día. Have DACA already working over 3 years, does that remove it? I think so. I think that would be the same as having a bachelor's degree. So I think if you get your conditional permanent resident status, then we apply and show your 3 years of pay stubs, taxes, all that good stuff. You should also be able to get that taken away and become a legal permanent resident without the word conditional there. Con la condicional puede salir del país. Sí. So cada persona que es residente permanente puede salir del país y puede regresar. No quiere estar afuera por más de 6 meses, pero sí puede salir donde usted quiere. Ya es tiempo a visitar la familia, ya es tiempo de regresar a su país, a conocer cuando ganamos, ¿verdad? ¿Cuándo cree que pasa la votación si hoy solo están en pláticas? Va a ser mucho tiempo, yo pienso, ¿verdad? Primero, ellos la van a tomar en su comité, Durbin y Graham. Durbin es el líder del comité. So él tiene control de cuándo escuchar, y escuchando él hoy, llorando él de emoción, yo creo que pronto él va a tener en su calendario para escuchar y para hacer debates. La pregunta viene siendo si él piensa que necesita más tiempo a trabajar y ganar más votos, hacer esto solo, o si tiene que trabajar con otras personas a poner más cosas ahí para que tiene más apoyo. Eso no sabemos. Eso es la política, no sabemos al fin de día cuándo va a pasar eso o si va a pasar. Es la cosa bien rara de políticas. Si ellos quieren, puede pasar eso solo pronto. Pero los republicanos, incluyendo el co-sponsor, Senator Graham, está diciendo, no, yo quiero que eso empiece el debate, pero quiero poner más cosas, quiero hacer debate sobre más cosas junto con este bill. No quiere pasarlo solo, desfortunadamente. Pero sí pueden. Si ellos querían, ellos podían. ¿Okay? Desfortunadamente. Eso es lo que estamos hablando hoy, comunidad, sobre el acta de sueños, el Dream Act. No ha pasado, ojalá pasa, y cuando pasa, si pasa así como está escrito, si entró cuando tenía menos de 18 años, 17 o menos, si también estudió o lo está estudiando en la prepa o por el GED, si no tiene récord criminal, y si usted tiene más de 4 años viviendo aquí, puede posiblemente aplicar por la residencia condicional. Y si tiene DACA, va a recibir condicional residencia con camino a la ciudadanía. Eso es básicamente lo que significa el Dream Act de 2021. Otra vez de YouTube, saludos amigos en YouTube. If you currently applied for DACA, this is another option if they don't approve you for DACA. Well, if you're currently applying for DACA, you're probably going to get an answer back on that before this becomes a law, if it becomes a law. So I think it's actually a good thing, because hopefully you'll get your DACA, then this law gets passed, then you become immediately a conditional permanent resident, hopefully without having to do much more. I imagine it'll be a fee, the fingerprinting. Hopefully they keep it cheap for those that already have DACA, maybe just another $85 for the fingerprint exam, who knows. But it is good under this bill to have DACA. So anybody in the process of applying, no reason to not do that. No reason to stop your DACA application or to not send it off, because there's a benefit to having DACA if the DREAM Act passes. You should become a conditional permanent resident without having to go through the rest of the hoops that other folks would have to do if they don't have DACA. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Muchísimas gracias, Gaby. Yo tomo mucho tiempo hoy entre las consultas, entre hablando de casos, hablando con clientes, leyendo de nuevo el Dream Act, porque no he leído por unos 2 años, para recordar qué dice ahí. Siempre es mi gusto platicar con la comunidad y explicar lo que está pasando en las leyes de migración. Si nos está viendo, por favor, compartir el video o subscribe en nuestro canal. Si está viendo en YouTube, por favor, lo agradezco eso como siempre. So, sí es bueno de empezar a empujar los congresistas, los senadores, el presidente, los dueños de negocios, cualquier persona que usted conozca que puede decir, yo quiero que ese sea aprobado rápido. Para mí eso es 1000 veces más importante que juntar documentos, ¿verdad? Juntar documentos es bueno, si tiene el tiempo debe hacerlo, pero más importante es luchar, es pelear por los derechos para que eso pueda ser la ley, ¿ok? Claro que sí, mi placer, gracias porque lo está viendo, Misael, saludos. How long does it take to get approved for DACA when applying for the first time? Who knows, Angel, man. Pandemic, even to get receipts back right now, it was getting nerve-wracking that we weren't getting receipts in the same amount of time we were getting before the pandemic. We were getting DACA renewals in 30 days. Just recently, now it feels like getting the receipts taking me longer than 30 days. So no indication yet of how long they're going to take to adjudicate. So nobody's off track yet. Right? Nobody that I know, our office or across the country, has gotten it approved since the initial ones were reopened again. So nothing to worry about. If you get it in, even if you get it in and you're not getting a receipt, it's going to come. We had some just come the other day that were sent off weeks ago. So it's very slow. Can't give you a definite answer on that, but keep waiting is the best thing I can say there. Or instead of just keep waiting, llamen a sus senadores y representantes. Tiene voz y es importante al recordar que su historia, sus palabras, lo que usted ha vivido, es importante a compartir. Es importante para empujar a ellos a hacer acciones y es algo que, obvio, si no había COVID, quería todos viviendo en el Capitolio cada vez que salga esos representantes, senadores, alguien hablando con ellos sobre eso, cuándo va a pasar. Pero yo sé con COVID todo está muy difícil ahorita. Of course, no, it's my pleasure. This is why you go to law school, man. Educate the community, stay up with it, try to get people motivated and inspired to do good work. So it's an honor for me to be able to take my time to be able to share that with you folks. Appreciate that. Mucho thanks. Y tengo una pregunta si quiero aplicar para DACA, pero no fui a la escuela por 3 años, lo que sería middle school, pero tengo comprobantes después de 2012 que fui allá a high school y llegué desde los 9 años. Sí es difícil, Erika, sí es muy difícil. La parte más difícil del DACA es probando de 2007 aquí no ha salido. Nosotros intentamos agarrar un documento mínimo por cada 3 meses y si por esos años no estaba en la escuela va a ser muy difícil. El bueno del DREAM Act, la propuesta que estamos hablando hoy, es que nada más tiene un requisito los últimos 4 años. So, sí es importante que siga poniendo cosas en su nombre ahorita para que pueda probar su presencia. Pero yo desafortunadamente conozco muchas personas que no querían seguir con el proceso o que fue negado porque no tenía suficiente documentación. Muy importante de buscar cualquier documento de ese tiempo que tiene su nombre. Si no estaba en la escuela, tiene que pensar y hablar con sus papás. Fue doctor, dentista, estaba en deportes, hiciste algo en la iglesia, cualquier cosa, inscripción en gimnasio, bill de celular, de un gobierno o un negocio que tiene su nombre y la fecha. Más personas, si ustedes hagan DACAs, por favor pongan en los comentarios y debemos hacer un otro video. Eso es lo que voy a hacer, Erika. Okay, voy a hacer otro video en puro documentos y cosas que pueda hacer si no tiene mucho por un cierto tiempo en las próximas semanas y voy a avisar a usted. Okay? Es todo lo que yo puedo pensar ahorita. Pero si es algo que muchas personas tienen problemas, debemos hacer otro video específicamente sobre este tema. Y Cariña, explique lo que tiene que pedir. Que pase el DREAM Act. Nada más tiene que pensar en esas palabras. DREAM Act. Pase el DREAM Act. Pueden marcar ellos cada día. Pase el DREAM Act. Hola, otro día. Pase el DREAM Act. Seguir haciéndolo. Todos sus amigos, familiares, sus tíos, patrones. Tenemos que hacerlo. Can use Facebook as proof of continuous residence in the USA. So this one specifies the documents that you can use to prove. Doesn't include social media, right? We have used social media posts in the past along with more like a supplement. Like, hey, we're missing 1 3-month period, but here's a post that shows a picture that they were eating at this restaurant, which is in this city, right? You can try that. I know they've come out more recently saying they don't like the social media stuff, but again, when you don't have everything like we're talking about with Erica here, let's get creative. Let's get creative and throw things out there. So I appreciate that, Angel. Thank you. Disculpa, ¿cuál es la aplicación que necesito para aplicar por medio de mi hijo que es ciudadano y cuánto cuesta? Se llama la I-130. La I-130 es 535. Empieza el proceso de arreglar por medio de su hijo, pero otra vez tuvo que entrar con visa. Antes 2001 en petición. Tiene un hijo que está en el ejército. Esa aplicación también es el I-485. Con esos dos son los que necesitan para empezar el proceso para arreglar por medio de hijo. I-130, I-485. Sí, eso sí es un poco más complicado que DACA. So, yo sí recomiendo de hablar con un abogado o con un experto en migración para que pueda explicar mejor y estar seguro que usted es admisible al país y no está perdiendo su dinero en aplicando o más peor que algo negativo resulta. Pero si quiere, hacemos consultas gratis at least por los siguientes tiempos. Tenemos muchas personas marcándonos, pero todavía tenemos los gratis 602-910-4040 para que podamos hablar en teléfono específicamente sobre su caso. Oh, Karina is volunteering for another Facebook Live. Karina is a frequent guest here on Facebook Live shows, and it seems like we need to do another Facebook Live where Karina can show us how to contact our representatives and senators. Or you can just message her. Either one. Either would get her on a video, you can do that, or as she's volunteering here, amazingly, she will give you that information. So get it in contact with Karina Ruiz, ADAC. Let's get the party started. Let's get the movement continuing to go. I don't say going, because it's been going for years, over 20 years on this topic of the DREAM Act. So get in touch with Karina and let's get another video done, Karina, of exactly how to do that. That sounds like fun. All right, claro que sí. Well, and we'll get you another video. Vamos a hacer otro video también. My pleasure, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Dun, dun. Who else we got here? No necesita ser ciudadano para llamar al Congreso. Cualquier persona, es su gobierno, lo puedo marcar. Appreciate, yes, make the calls, get out there, get your voices heard. Soon we'll be able to get back to the streets and to the halls of Congress and the Senate. For now, calls, emails, text, video, share your story, tell your story. And look at that, we have it. Confirmed. She's a hard person to book because she's so busy, but she has confirmed she will be here. We'll get another video done soon, folks, of how to contract your representatives and senators. Muchísimas gracias todos. Como siempre, si no está viendo en el en vivo, lo puedo mandar mensaje. Yo lo puedo ver después. Mándanos mensaje directo. Márcanos 602-910-4040. También por sus casos de migración penal y de accidentes. Aquí estamos para servir comunidad que tiene muy excelente noche. Si tienen preguntas, está viendo en vivo, póngalos ya para que yo pueda contestar. Si no, es jueves y es tiempo de dormir para empezar de nuevo mañana a marcar los representantes para decirle que ya pongo un voto solo el DREAM Act, ¿verdad? Eso es algo que estamos muy enfocados este año. Aquí empieza el DREAM Act y ojalá pongamos más personas que va a ser residentes permanentes en el futuro y eso es nada más lo que estamos empezando. Mi placer, Miguel, saludos a la familia, saludos a todos de Semillas, sigue haciendo un trabajo excelente y que tiene muy excelente tarde de comunidad, otro grupo para apoyar y ser parte de Semillas, claro que sí, mi placer. Si tengo DACA, mi hijo se introduce a US Navy a los 18, teniendo que esperar por residencia hasta que tenga 21. Sí. So, Gaby, felicidades que tienes un hijo en el Navy. Tiene que esperar hasta que cumple 21 años para arreglar, para pedir la residencia. Pero mientras, sí puede ser algo muy bueno que se llama military parole in place. Eso puede pedir un permiso de trabajo mientras que lo está esperando que él cumple 21 años. So, muy, muy bueno eso, y es un beneficio grande que no es residencia hasta que él cumple 21 años. Podemos mandar esa aplicación, pero sí hay manera de pedir un permiso de trabajo. ¿Okay? Si quieren más información de eso, nos marca y yo lo puedo explicar, pero sí es algo muy bueno que debe aprovechar. ¿Okay? Muchísimas gracias, comunidad, que tiene excelente noche. Aquí nos vemos el siguiente jueves y si no, más pronto. Que tiene buena noche.